Well, if it's all right, I'd like to tell you where it started.
Go ahead.
All right, well, he was my bunkie, and I had found out that he was in prison for child molestation. So that night he was trying to justify why he did it, and I just told him to be quiet, and he would have to leave in the morning to find a new cell. But he continued to talk about it and try to justify it, so I wrapped a cord around his neck and I took his life.
Well, this is Stephen Sanderson. He is a prisoner in the Saginaw Correctional Facility in Freeland and the murderer of a fellow inmate. When Stephen was agitated by Dyer's stories of crime, he took the opportunity and did what he thought was best in the time given. Stephen has earned himself a place among dozens of inmates around the world who can't even stand to be in the same room as a child molester, because a prison sentence is no different than a death sentence to them. The story and footage you're about to see and hear are raw and unsettling. It is a collection of prisoner confessions about killing child molesters. Some people find solace in the idea of justice being carried out in this manner. Others, however, believe it calls into question the ethics and safety of our prison system. We'll be delving into the lives of a few of these child predators who died in prison in this video. Let's get started. Number 1. John Geoghegan. John Geoghegan was an excommunicated Catholic priest at the center of a controversy involving sexual abuse in the church. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts on June 4, 1935. And was ordained a priest in 1962. The Boston Globe's Pulitzer Prize-winning Spotlight investigative team revealed through their reporting in 2002 that church officials, including Cardinal Bernard Law, had permitted Geoghegan to continue serving in parishes despite multiple reports of sexual abuse. Geoghegan was ultimately found guilty of sexually abusing a minor and was removed from active ministry in 1993 after allegations of sexual abuse of minors surfaced. On August 26, 2003, while Geoghegan was incarcerated and serving his sentence, Joseph Drews, another prisoner, attacked and killed him. Drews claimed that after learning who his fellow prisoner was, he started to view him as a prize and spent a month plotting his murder. This incident caused a lot of controversies because, despite the fact that both inmates were in protective custody, one turned out to be dangerous to the other in a setting designed to keep them both safe, and because Drews' past had been questioned in an effort to determine what motivated him to behave. Number 2. Richard William Huckle, an Englishman who worked as a freelance photographer in Malaysia and took part in the local community before relocating there permanently in 2010, is known as Britain's worst pedophile. Despite having a busy schedule and working part-time for the Nike Football Club in Malaysia, Huckle found time to commit crimes in 2014. In 2014, police discovered a network of pedophiles using the dark web network Love Zone. They discovered a user who consistently used the greeting Hayes and had a distinctive freckle on one of his fingers. The police used this user's identity, Shannon McCool, to track down other pedophiles using their website. They saved 85 children from ongoing abuse and detained hundreds of them. When his mother questioned him about the claims, Huckle, who had no prior convictions, admitted to raping children between the ages of 3 and 13 while intoxicated. The police had freed Huckle on bond with the condition that he reside with his parents. After his parents pleaded with the police to arrest him, he was again taken into custody and charged with 91 counts. At an initial hearing at the Old Bailey in January 2016, the police refused to grant him bail, and he was detained at HMP Lewis before being moved to HMP Belmarsh in London for trial. During a preliminary trial hearing in April, Huckle entered a not guilty plea to all 91 charges, which took the courtroom over an hour to read aloud. However, Huckle later entered a guilty plea to 71 of the 91 charges after requesting to see the entire case's evidence. His victims ranged in age from 6 months to 12 years old. Before we move on to number 3, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, The Crooks. Moving on. Number 3. David Bob and Graham DeLuise Conte. A 41-year-old Jonathan, when Watson attacked and killed David, he insisted that he was doing everyone a favor. The unfortunate fact that other prisoners knew that Bob and Graham DeLuise Conte, the two victims, were serving life terms for the violent sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl, proved to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Watson stated that the other prisoners were outraged by Bob's decision to watch a PBS Kids program in a common area of the prison where they were also housed. One of them reportedly inquired whether they were really going to watch him watch kids while he was in jail for nesting. Then he stood up and told them that he would handle it, which to him meant taking a cane and repeatedly hitting Bob until he was virtually dead. But he didn't stop there. When Watson spotted Graham with Luis Conte, who had also been condemned with Bob for the same crime, He decided to take him out as well. Watson had no intention of hiding his crime, so he proceeded to hunt for a jail warden to report himself. Several times when he went to report himself to prison authorities, they believed him to be lying until they entered the dormitories and witnessed for themselves that the fatally injured inmates were taken to the hospital, where David Bob died while his partner died. Watson thought he had nothing to lose because he was serving a life sentence 3 days later. Number 4. Roy William Whiting. This is the case. Sarah Payne, an innocent 8-year-old girl with the greatest grin, was playing hide-and-seek with her siblings, Lee, Luke, and Charlotte, at her grandparents' home in Kingston Gore, West Sussex. Sarah had hit her head and run away crying, just meters from her older brothers who were out of sight. A frantic search began, but the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into 16 agonizing days. Finally, her naked body was discovered in a shallow grave a few miles away, her angelic face forever frozen in terror and pain. The police immediately launched a manhunt, determined to bring the monster responsible to justice. But as the investigation dragged on, hope was lost. It wasn't until months later that they had a suspect in mind. Roy was caught several weeks later after a guy he knew came forward and a knife was discovered stashed in his car in June of that year. Roy agreed to charges of kidnapping and indecent assault and was sentenced to 4 years in jail despite a psychiatrist's advice that he was likely to re-offend. Roy was released from jail in November 1997, having served just over 2 years of his sentence. Roy received a promotion in November 2002. Home Secretary David Blunkett's 50-year minimum sentence means he, at the age of 92, would not be freed from prison until 2051. Roy challenged the verdict, and in 2010 the Supreme Court lowered his minimum sentence to 40 years, putting him eligible for parole at the age of 82. Number 5. Ashley James Brofo was often 39 years old. Ashley James Brofo, whose obscurity started some time ago, was indeed born. His mother didn't need him, so he was raised by his grandmother near his stepbrother, Terrence Kelly. It was a childhood filled with manhandling and violence, which would shape Brofo's twisted mind and make him each parent's worst nightmare. In July 2022, the complete degree of his depravity was uncovered in a sentencing hearing in the Perth local court. A youthful young lady was remaining with her step-grandparents amid the school holidays. She honestly inquired on the off chance that she seemed to walk her dog alone in the park. Brofo saw her close the stop and approached her from behind. He took her hand and baited her to his house. Once inside, Brofo attacked and exposed himself to the young lady. She attempted to leave, but he baited her into his bedroom. Brofo's attorney attempted to blame his client's opportunistic offense on his intellectual inability and schizophrenia, but the state prosecutor contended that it had been as it were since Brofo's career happened. Visit that the young lady was able to escape. Brofo pled guilty to 2 counts of indecency managing a child under 13 and empowering a child to lock in sexual acts. So that's all for today. If you found this video interesting, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. We hope you found these stories both informative and thought-provoking. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.